Hello, everybody. This is JT Productions, and welcome to the 2023 preview and prediction videos. I have a guest for the SEC part of this prediction, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? This is Gator Gerp, a diehard Florida fan, so ready to look at some other teams as well as Florida and kind of see what the SEC is going to look like this year.
Yes, sir. He's relatively new to making YouTube videos like today, so let's give him some love if you wouldn't mind going over to his channel, just taking a look. All of these preview and predictions for the SEC will also be over there, so if you wouldn't mind just going over there and giving him some love. He loves Florida, so he's going to be doing a lot of Florida stuff, so if you like looking at stuff around the SEC, not just Georgia, check him out. I'm sure he'll have a bunch of great things to show, so let's get right into it. Today we're going to do the Alabama Crimson Tide 2023 preview and prediction. So last year, as we can see, Alabama went 11-2 with only two losses being against Tennessee and LSU, both on the road. So what can you gather with that?
You know, I see a missed opportunity, especially with the loss at LSU. At that point, they still had control of their destiny. Obviously, after losing that game, LSU went and ran the rest of the table and made it to Atlanta. So I'm looking at a few things here. Texas A&M jumps at me just because of how close it was. A&M wasn't necessarily a very talented team last year. I don't think their offense coaching was where it should have been, especially after laying a few eggs early in the season. I think Alabama probably could have shown a little more there. And at Tennessee, just the defense, just neither team's defense showed up there. So.
Yeah, it was embarrassing, to say the least, when it comes to being an SEC fan and seeing all of this. Tennessee's got a great offense, but I mean, look what happened when Tennessee came to Athens. I'm just saying. So, rather than that, another thing that sticks out to me was that game on the road at Texas, where they were only able to score 20 points on a team that the year before didn't even make a bowl game. Like, that just showed Alabama has struggled on the road and sometimes at home for the past since 2021. So, will that trend continue? We'll just have to see.
I still think as an offense against Texas, Alabama's still trying to figure some things out. The only solid piece that was there at that point was Bryce Young behind center. Jahmyr Gibbs was a great addition. Did some really good things for Alabama. But 20-19 win, and in my mind, had Quinn Ewers not gotten hurt, I think that one would have went to Texas, and Alabama would have been looking at probably a 9-3 season.
Yeah, I would not doubt that. So, new things that are coming along for Alabama this year. They got rid of both their offensive and defensive coordinators. Bill O'Brien went to the Patriots, and the defensive coordinator, Pete Golden, he's now with the Ole Miss Rebels. So they have two new coordinators. One is an older, more experienced one, and Kevin Steele, who came over from Miami. He had some great years over at Auburn for a couple of years. And he actually was at Alabama when Nick Saban got there. So we'll just have to see how that pans out. But I think their defense is going to be improved. It's a very young defense. They lost all three of their starting safeties from last year in Jordan Battle, DeMarco Helms, and Brian Branch. I think Brian Branch was the safety. Brian Branch. So we'll see with that. And then the offense, they're bringing over Notre Dame's offensive coordinator in Tommy Rees. Now, Tommy Rees, he's a more younger guy. He doesn't have that much of experience. He was brought up after Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, I believe, which he did okay last year. He didn't have a lot of pieces with Notre Dame besides the tight end, Michael Mayer. So we'll see what he can do with a lot of talent that Alabama has on their roster.
Yeah, and I looking at their roster, I see a handful of pieces that's probably going to relieve some of the pressure off of Jalen Milroe, a really young, talented quarterback. I see Isaiah Bond at the H spot in the wide receiver. He's a very talented young receiver. You have a veteran in Jermaine Burton who's returning. Ja'Cory Brooks is a very fast, very shifty receiver. And then defensively, you're going to have Dallas Turner kind of filling in the Will Anderson spot. And I think he's going to be a pretty good fit there. You have an all-SEC corner in Kool-Aid McKinstry. And then Earl Little, I think, is a very talented guy as well. That's going to bring some pretty well needed veteran presence to this team.
I completely agree. The only thing that really is questionable to me on this offense is the quarterback position. You have 3 guys that could end up starting. Jalen Milroe is probably the most athletic out of the bunch, but his decision making and ball protection is very questionable. You saw it last year against Texas A&M. He had 2 fumbles that could have lost the game for Alabama. And then Ty Simpson, very young. He showed some promise in the spring game, but not really proven yet. And Tyler Buckner, he did not have a good year last year for Notre Dame. His best game was probably their last when they played against South Carolina. But Tommy Rees brought him in. Tommy Rees believes in him. So if he ends up starting, we'll just have to see how it is. It could be a Jacob Coker situation to where he comes in and just elevates his play enough to where they are able to play good. I think that this team is going to be more of a run-first offense with Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, and freshman Justice Hayes, which, if you didn't know, Justice Hayes is the son of a former Georgia player that was a part of the hobnail boot play against Tennessee. Now, the wide receivers, you mentioned Kobe Prentice. You also have Kendrick Law, as well as JUCO transfer Malik Benson. Oh, yeah, Kobe Prentice as well. But he's going to be a dog. He was one of the best JUCO players coming out. So we'll just have to see how it goes. And they also got a tight end, C.J. Dipper, who they feel is very good. On the defensive side, you mentioned a lot of these guys. You have a senior D-tackle on Tim Smith that's really going to come in and hopefully for them be a good piece to their defense. You also have Georgia transfer Tresman Marshall coming to be that really solid middle linebacker for them. He was a good piece of that Georgia linebacking core that was very young last year. Anytime you saw him make a play, it was a big one. So they got a good piece there. Best of luck to him. And Chris Braswell is another piece of that edge rushing class with Dallas Turner, along with a freshman. I don't know. I think it's Justin Jefferson, which is very ironic. He's coming in, but they're gonna be pretty good. You also have Malachi Moore, who was injured all of last year, which hurt their secondary. He's going to be a big part of this team. And Caleb Downs has been so much this offseason compared to Minka Fitzpatrick. So we'll just have to see. So with that, they also go ahead.
I see some very talented freshmen on this list, and looking at the running back room, Jace McClellan's really the only somewhat proven running back that's going to be running behind that O-line. I see Richard Young, 5-star prospect, I think is going to have a really good chance at having some early playing time. I see Quay Russaw at slot linebacker. I think he could definitely fill in some spots, and I think by the end of the year, both of those are either second or third string guys, or second string or first string guys. The talent's definitely there. I'm just one thing that worries me is the lack of veterans in the skill positions.
I agree. Also, Keon Keeley is another 5-star freshman that they say is going to be very good this year. He could be in that edge rotation with Braswell and Dallas Turner. I don't think they got a Will Anderson this year, but the pieces that they have are still very usable. They still have Will Reichard, who's going to be a good kicker for them. So, with that, let's go ahead and see what we think is going to happen this year. So to start off the year, the way we're going to do this is I'm going to have my predictions, and good old Gerp right here is going to have his, and at the end of the video, I'm going to show it on the screen, and by the end of the season, we're going to see who was better. So to start off the year, they're at home against Middle Tennessee State, and in my opinion, I think that they're going to play all three quarterbacks and be able to get an easy win here with a good run game and good defense against the Blue Raiders.
Yeah, I think Middle Tennessee just is going to be overmatched. Opening game at home. Tuscaloosa is going to be fired up. The fan base is going to be fired up. I think Alabama wins easily on there.
Yeah, especially since it's a 7:30 kick.
7:30 kick, not game in Tuscaloosa. Yeah.
And week 2, this is a big one. Texas coming to Tuscaloosa. It says they're number 10 on this schedule. Who knows what they're going to be by the start of the season, but they got some dogs on that roster. Quinn Ewers is coming back. If he's improved at all, which he looked good against Alabama last year, he's going to be throwing it across the yard to guys like Jordan Whittington, A.D. Mitchell, who came over from Georgia, Xavier Worthy. There's another guy that came over from Wyoming who didn't play last year because of injury, but he's another dog. I think that they have an Alabama transfer running back who's still there, and the running game apparently has looked still very good. So, Texas, I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to give the Longhorns the win. So, I think Alabama starts 1-1.
Yeah, it's bold having them lose in week 2. I think a lot of Alabama fans are going to have this one marked simply because of last year. A lot of people, certainly myself, thought that they should have lost that game. Quinn Ewers is obviously coming into his next year here at Texas, but I think Alabama takes care of business. I think they win by double digits in this one.
Bold as well. The next week is a interesting game on the road at South Florida in Raymond James Stadium. You don't really see this often with the big boys of like Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, or any of those guys that they go on the road to a group of 5 team. So this is just, I don't think it's going to be an interesting game per se, but it's an interesting concept. So I think Alabama's going to roll on and get ready for the next week against first SEC opponent, Ole Miss.
Yeah, when I see USF, I obviously think back to Florida's game last year. Probably should have lost that game. Had a few things go our way there at the end. But Alabama rolls on this one. It's not even close.
Fair enough. All right. The next game not on the road, at home against the Ole Miss Rebels. This game is going to be a pivotal one. Ever since Lane Kiffin has been at Ole Miss, the main plan has been he wants to beat Alabama. He wants to beat Nick Saban.
Oh, yeah.
Ever since he's been at Ole Miss, every game besides 2021, I'll give him that. He came in there too boldly. He has given Alabama a big fight. Look at 2020 with that team that was supposedly one of the best Alabama teams of all time. Lane Kiffin took them to the wire with an Ole Miss team that was not that good. Your Gators absolutely stomped them. So, I don't know, dude. They got some good quarterbacks. They got Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State. Jackson Dart, he didn't look that good last year. He's got potential. They still have Quinshon Judkins and Ulysses Bentley in the backfield. They got some receiving weapons. They got a new D coordinator. They got some guys out of the portal in the defense. And on the offensive line, they should be fine. This may be a little unorthodox. I got Ole Miss taking this one in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I'll play right into that one. Like Lane Kiffin said, have your popcorn ready. I think Ole Miss gets this one done. By week 4, I have a feeling that Walker Howard is going to be the starting quarterback. He has a pro-style form. He's your prototypical quarterback build for the NFL. I think Ole Miss wins this one in a close one.
You see, I agree with you there. The main reason I have Alabama dropping 2 early in the season, quarterback situation and the offensive line. The thing is, if they start Jalen Milroe, I just don't think that he's going to be able to get out of the Texas game without being nicked up. The team being nicked up, that is. And if Buckner starts, I don't think that he has the ability to take over games like a guy with the talents of Milroe or Ty Simpson can. And I just don't know if Ty Simpson is ready for this type of play yet. So that is why I have them dropping 2 early. So let's move on. On the road, first SEC road game, first SEC road game, on the road at Mississippi State. Now this is a tough game too. Alabama's already dropped 2 games to this point, if my record is right, and they're going on the road to a hostile environment Most likely it should be a night game, and night games in Stark Vegas are very, very dangerous. Just look at the 2017 Alabama game. When they came in there with Jalen Hurts, they were undefeated, and they almost lost to Nick Fitzgerald, Dan Mullen, and the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State, they're having their own issues this offseason. Rest in peace, Mike Leach. They got
Pirate, yep. Rip the Pirate.
You got Zach Arnett coming in. He was their defense coordinator last year. Their defense was pretty good. They were not the most talented bunch, but they were pretty good overall. So, I think Will Rogers, early in the game, could take advantage of a depleted Alabama secondary. Very young, at this point, they're upset at how they've played. And I think that he could come in and sort of take advantage of that, maybe get up early. But I think Nick Saban gets that team right, and I think that Alabama rolls late to beat the Bulldogs in Starkville.
Yeah, I think coming off, per my predictions, a loss to Ole Miss, I think Alabama bounces back really well against Mississippi State. Alabama's going to be the more talented team, plain and simple. I think they have better coaching, better talent offensively and defensively. I think Alabama wins big at Mississippi State.
All right, next up, they're on the road at College Station to take on the Aggies. This is going to be another very dangerous game for them. The last 2 seasons, they have struggled against Texas A&M, whether it's at home or away. Kyle Field is no slouch. This will most likely be a night game as well because of, I think Texas A&M is going to be a lot better than they were last year. So I do think Alabama takes this one, though. I think that they're able to rally the troops, find their identity on offense, and their defense, even though they're young, I think is going to be able to come up big for them. So I think Alabama goes now 4-2.
Yeah, I think Texas A&M has to be probably the biggest question mark in the SEC this year.
Oh, yeah.
You lose a lot of talent with the transfer portal, obviously. A lot of teams are at this point with the new world NIL transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to how A&M is going to be this year. But I do think that Alabama, after the close call last year, I do think Alabama takes this one. Pretty close game, but I think Bama pulls away late.
I agree, especially with now getting the new coordinators. Instead of having a pro offense with more of an RPO style, they're going back to ground and pound. I think they'll be just fine. Then the next week is homecoming against Arkansas. Arkansas, they still have KJ Jefferson. He's a very good quarterback. I would not say he's elite just yet. Needs to work on his passing. If anything, right now he's a Walmart version of Cam Newton.
A watered down version.
Arkansas does have some good running backs in Raheem Rocket Sanders and A.J. Green, as well as their defense. They got some guys at the transfer portal, and they got new offensive and defensive coordinators. They also got a tight end out of North Texas that was rated as one of the top 10 transfers out of the class this year. With that being said, though, they had trouble stopping the run last year. They had trouble stopping Alabama 2 years ago. They've had trouble stopping Alabama since 2006. So that being said, I think Alabama has a record day against Arkansas at home and goes to 5-2.
Yeah, it almost wouldn't feel right picking Alabama to lose their homecoming game. I do think KJ Jefferson's a very talented quarterback, very physically gifted, very fast. His accuracy did struggle at times last year. However, he did showcase his arm talent in a few games later in the year. So homecoming, Tuscaloosa, you could probably bank on that being a night game. I think the Tide rolls.
Now, there's one little wrinkle that you could say, and that is this being maybe a trap game because of the 2 games that is between at Texas A&M and the next game, Tennessee at home. Tennessee at this point probably has 1 loss or no losses, and Tennessee, they are another dangerous team. Their offense is very explosive. There's only a certain amount of teams in the country that can slow it down or even stop it, and Alabama has the athletes. It's just if they can execute. With that secondary being as young as it is, I just don't know if they can. But that can be said with the quarterback situation at Tennessee. While I don't think that Joe Milton's going to be bad at all, I don't think that he's going to be the next savior like Hendon Hooker was for y'all. Now, with that also being said, I think this is going to be a close game. This could be one of the games of the year. I think Alabama takes it at home against Tennessee for one of the biggest upsets of the year to this point.
Yeah, at this point, I do not think that it's close. Tennessee, I think Joe Milton's probably going to have a few good games thrown in the first half of their schedule, roll into Tuscaloosa with some confidence, pretty high confidence, and I think that's going to get him into some trouble.
I can see that.
I see that he's going to come in thinking he can lead a Tennessee team to a victory in Tuscaloosa, their first one in probably a decade.
The last time they won in Tuscaloosa, I believe, was 2004.
Well, it won't start in 2023. I think Alabama wins, and I don't think it's particularly close either.
That is completely fair. I do think it's going to be close just because of the quarterback woes that Alabama, in my opinion, will have next year. But I think Alabama's will be able to elevate. Next up, you have your bye week before staying home to play the LSU Tigers. LSU, I think, is going to be improved from last year. I think that they're going to be a very dangerous team in general. They play some tough games, including Florida State. They play Florida, which could be a difficult game for them. It always is, most of the time. But this is going to be a tough game. They got defensive players all across the board. They're getting Mason Smith back, who last year got injured in the first game of the year. Against FSU, they got Harold Perkins. They got people in the secondary. They got a bunch of transfers in the secondary. While you do as well, you got a guy from UAB and I forget another. I don't think it was Troy. It may have been North Alabama or something like that. But LSU, I think Jaden Daniels and that Tigers offense gets the best of that young defense. And I think that defense for LSU gets the best of the Alabama offense. And a close bout in Tuscaloosa, I think LSU takes it for the second year in a row and gives Alabama its third loss for the first time since 2010.
Yeah, looking at the teams in total, I would say LSU is arguably the most complete team in the West. Alabama has too many question marks. With that being said, November game, Tuscaloosa, that one's probably also going to be a night game. I think Alabama matches up really well with LSU defensively, given even though Will Anderson is gone, I think those corners are going to be a problem for Jaden Daniels all night. I think Alabama wins in a close one November 4th against LSU.
That's fair. Now, you know what they say, title contenders are born in November.
That's fair. That's fair.
They do have a sneaky tough game the next week on the road at Kentucky. Now, you may say, what do you mean? Kentucky was terrible last year. They haven't been a title contender ever. Well, I mean, you're right with that, but they get Devin Leary coming in from NC State. Yeah. They got a running back coming in from NC State as well as Kavasier Smoke. They got a bunch of young receivers. Their defense has always been good under Mark Stoops. And while y'all have gotten the better of them every time y'all have played, because every time that y'all have played, y'all have had a super team. 2016, 2020. Kentucky, they're a very sneaky game. So, and it's coming off another loss. The only thing that's pushing me towards a Alabama win, besides the talent difference, is because it's coming off a loss. Nick Saban is going to have that team angry. That's what he wants. That's what he wants this team to be, angry. So I think on the road at Kentucky, they get a win. They get a big one at that, too.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. Devin Leary is going to be a big pickup for Kentucky. Kavasier Smoke had some flashes last year of being borderline elite SEC running back, but Kentucky's offensive line is my biggest question mark. They have some talent at those positions, but I do not think that they have enough talent to take Alabama out in this one.
Yeah, that's completely fair. The next week they play the powerhouse of the Chattanooga Mocs, and they're coming to Tuscaloosa to be a daggum title-breaking contender, and Alabama's going to beat them by 50.
Yeah, I think that this one is a Look over game. I don't think Chattanooga poses much of a threat to take out Alabama.
Bama.
Don't think Chattanooga poses much of a threat to take out Alabama in this one. I think Bama wins big.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Then they have another sneaky road game on the road at Auburn. Ever since, I would say, probably 2013, Alabama has struggled on the road at Auburn. It has been their kryptonite ever since. 2013, they lost on the kick six. 2015, they struggled through the first 3 quarters before pulling away. 2017, they lost 26-14, and that led Auburn to the SEC championship. 2019, they lost to Bo Nix and Gus Malzahn. 2021, the only reason they won is because they went to overtime for the first time in Iron Bowl history. With that being said, though, Auburn's going to have their own troubles this year with new quarterback if they don't start Robbie Ashford, new head coach, new guys all around. Hugh Freeze is a good coach, but Nick Saban is better. I think Nick Saban gets the best of Hugh Freeze, at least for this year, gets a big win on the road at Auburn to finish the season 9-3.
Yeah, I think Auburn is going to do some really great things with Hugh Freeze at the helm. But kind of like you said, I just don't think they are there yet. Lost a few key players to the transfer portal. I don't think Robbie Ashford or TJ Finley is going to be your answer.
TJ Finley's gone. It's Peyton Thorne now.
So I don't think that the Auburn quarterback situation is going to match up very well, especially against, at this point, it's going to be a pretty well-tested Alabama defense. I think Alabama pulls this one out at Jordan-Hare.
I think I agree with you. So, to finish our preview prediction, I predict Alabama to go 9-3 with losses to Texas, Ole Miss, and LSU to finish season 9-3, their worst record since 2010. And you predict them to go
11-1. Yeah, I think they lose to Ole Miss. That's the only trip up they have, and books them a trip to the SEC championship.
That is fair. I could see them going anywhere from 9-3 to 12-0 or 11-1. Yeah. It's just going to be depending on the quarterback situation.
Absolutely.
And they do have tough games, but they've had tough games before and been able to absolutely take them over.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for being here, Gator Gert.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it.
And you'll be hearing a lot more from him as we go through the SEC. So check him out at Gator Gerp on YouTube. And is that your Twitter handle as well?
It is. Yeah, my Twitter handle is at jgert14, but my name on there is Gator Gert. So check me out.
All right, sounds good. So thank you all so much for watching, and Go Dogs.